Hi, this is Juan from JuanTutors.com. Welcome to my totally free office hours. Today we are working on problem 25 of the August 2016 New York Algebra 1 Common Core Regents. If you need to find these problems, they're online. Go to nysedregents.org. You can find them there. Click on the appropriate tabs. They're all available for you. So here's the problem. Graph the function y equals negative radical x plus 3 on the set of axes below. All right, so this is the kind of problem that I really kind of wish that all students knew how to do on paper. But it's okay that you don't know how to do it on paper. This is also the kind of problem that really no student should really be getting wrong. What do I mean? I mean that I understand if you get it wrong, but the thing is that don't forget that you do have tons of tools at your disposal during the Regents to get this question right. For example, you have a calculator with you. This problem can be done completely on the calculator. So I'm going to say y equals, in this case, negative radical x plus 3. So you can make guesses as to what this thing should look like. Even before I graph it, I'm gonna try to remember what I know. It does help to know some stuff. Like I know this is the inverse function to a radical. I know if I plug in -3, I get 0. Okay, -3. So this is y, this is x. This is a negative sign, so it's going to go below the x-axis, and it's half of a sideways parabola. So that's the graph. I know enough to know that that's the graph. I do, but if you don't know that, that's okay, right? For example, like if you don't know what point that is, that's okay. Here's the thing. This test is not even testing whether you know how to exactly graph it, no matter what. So I do know that that's what it is. I know that this y coordinate, if I plug in 0, this is x equals 0. I get negative radical 0 plus 3 is radical 3, so negative radical 3. So I do know that point is between 0 and 2, and between -1 and -2. But I'm going to graph this thing. Zoom standard. Zoom standard is 6. Okay, there's the graph. Okay, so what do I do on the test? That's enough. They only really count this, but you could do whatever you want on the side. So x, y, and I'm going to start at -3. So, because it's not defined for x less than -3. If you plug in numbers lower than -3, you get a negative number in the radical. The square root of a negative number is not real. Okay, so -3, I got negative radical 0 equals 0. -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's just plug in those points and see if we get a pattern. Negative radical -2 plus 3 equals negative radical 1 equals 1. Okay, and I'm going to catch a pattern here. Plug in -1. Negative radical -1 plus 3 equals negative radical 2. Radical 2. Okay. Plug in 0, I get negative radical 0 plus 3 equals negative radical 3. So hopefully at this point you've caught a pattern. Radical 0, radical 1, radical 2, radical 3, and then just to drive the point home, this should be negative radical 4. Radical 1 plus 3 equals negative 1 plus 3 is 4, negative radical 4. And that's true, -2. So this is negative radical 5, negative radical 6, negative radical 7, negative radical 8, and I'm going to plug in 6 and I get negative radical 9, which is equal to 3. There we go. So I can totally just graph those points. So -3, 0. I've seen some kids feel more comfortable when they do this. Sorry, my tablet was tilted, that's why that came out weird. So x comma y. So I'll even do that for you. -3, 0, -2, 1, -1, radical 2. Sorry, -1, and then negative radical 2, 0, negative radical 3, 1, -2, 2, negative radical 5, 3, negative radical 6, 4, negative radical 7, 5, negative radical 8, and 6 and 3, negative 3. Sorry, negative 3. Okay, cool. So what am I going to do here? I'm going to graph the points. Now, something I always want to mention, talking about scale. You do not have to label the scale, okay? They don't require that anymore. However, if you do choose to use a different scale other than the scale that they have available to you, then you do have to label the scale. But since I'm going to use the scale, one box represents 1, this is going to be at negative 3. And I get a point here, okay? At negative 2, I get a point here. Negative 1, 0, and I'm labeling this even though I don't have to. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So like, for example, if you want to skip count these points, then you have to label the coordinates. So negative 2. Negative 2, negative 1. And then the next one that I see clearly is 1, negative 2. And then I see the point 6, negative 3. 6, negative 3. And hopefully you see enough to see that that's a sideways parabola. So I'm going to go back to my black ink and draw the sideways parabola. Okay, there's my graph, and I'm totally done with the problem. Where can I lose points on this problem? Not drawing the points correctly. That's one way you can you can lose points. Not labeling the points correctly. Another way that kids constantly lose points and think that they can get partial credit is by graphing this thing on the calculator, already having enough information on the calculator, and not doing it. Not even bothering to label the points correctly. They just kind of see that it kind of does this little swishy thing under the x-axis, and they just draw a little swishy thing under the x-axis. They carelessly put their pen down, whomp, draw the swishy thing, wherever it happens to land, maybe making it land, maybe making it land like this, maybe making it land like this, maybe doing this kind of thing, maybe making it go to negative 3 and then flattening out and going backwards. All these things, all of those are obviously wrong. Why not, if you have the data, why not draw it well? Now, I do want to point out also, I calculated all this stuff by hand. You have all this stuff available to you, again, on the calculator. And we're going to do an extra practice problem in a second. See this, though? Look at it, all available to you. Error, 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 error. So it really is not real for x below negative 3. And then it gives you all the numbers that I had just mentioned. 1, 2, negative 2, 6, negative 3. And if you wanted to graph it differently and skip count it and something like that, 13, negative 4. Keep going, 22, negative 5. There's a bunch of points here. You have so much information that you can graph this all on your own. Now let me go to the practice problem, and I'm going to use the calculator to graph this one. Graph the function y equals negative radical 5 minus x. I strongly advise you to pause the video at this point. Try it on your own. And when you're done, press play, see what if you got the same thing we did. If you did, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe. And remember that if we're able to provide these tutorials totally for free by having viewers like you see these videos. So if you have any school friends that can find use of these videos, let them know. Also, clicking the like button and subscribing does help us to get more viewers. So please do that as well. So how do we do this problem? I'm gonna first establish that, again, we can do it on the calculator, but I want to do a quick thing over here. So if this is my graph paper, right? Okay. If this is my graph paper, This is a sideways parabola. I recognize these radicals as sideways parabolas. The fact that negative x, there's a negative sign in front of the x number, the x means that it's going to be a backwards left opening parabola, half of one. The fact that there's a negative sign here means that it's going to open. It's going to be the bottom side, the bottom half of the parabola, just like the previous problem that we just did was also the bottom side of the parabola. But because this side, this is a negative, it's going to open to the left. And this has an x-intercept when 5 minus x equals 0. 5 minus x equals 0, 5 minus x equals 0. That's something you could do on paper, plus x. And you get x equals 5. So it crosses the x-axis at 5. And I'm going to get a thing that looks like this. Okay? And that's going to be the point at x equals 0. For x equals 0, you get y equals negative radical 5 minus 0 equals negative radical 5. So if you're wondering what that point is, that's radical 5, negative radical 5, which is around negative 2.2. Now, let's do this on the calculator the correct way. So negative radical, get in there, 5 minus x, make sure that's written correctly, table, I'm going to scroll up. Okay, 5, 0. I also have 4, negative 1. Okay, and I keep scrolling. 1, negative 2. And look at this is full credit. Not the worst problem to get full credit on if I could do it on the calculator. Negative 4, negative 3. And I'm going to check if there's any other points that can fit that have integer solutions. Let's see. Negative 11, negative 4. Negative 11 is off the graph. No, you do not force negative 11 to be on the graph. Keep the graph completely on this paper. So notice negative 11, negative 4 is right around here, though. The reason I'm mentioning that is not that I'm going to graph it. I am strictly not going to graph it. It's like a little dot right there, but I'm not graphing it. Why? My point is that means that for all these values, the graph should not dip below the line y equals negative 4. If you dip the graph below the line y equals negative 4, someone grading this exam who feels like taking away points might be able to take away points, and they'd be right to. They'd be fully justified to do that. So we're going to graph carefully. It's on the bottom of this, and we're going to connect. It's a parabola, so it goes down and then it starts curving smoothly, smoothly, smoothly. By graphing the points, I don't have to worry so much about being directly on the curve if it's a little bit sloppy. But I do not want to go below the line y equals negative 4. So I'm going to do that arrow, and I'm going to do that right there to say that it blows up. Or it keeps going in that kind of direction. That's the graph. That is 2 points free on the Regents. Thanks for watching. I know you could do it. Use the calculator. It's a good tool to have. Keep studying this stuff. Stay tuned for the next video starting right now.